we're here again.
Yeah,
She's here. Just saw her in that recorded interview.
On the back of that, I've got a message on the back of that.
Because it was a great interview.
Yeah. Before we introduce you, our great guest in the studio, by the way. This one says, I congratulate Madam Asante for her good work. The story is somehow different in other regions. I have a friend who went to a particular hospital in the Volta region for VCT, and he was told there are no kits. I wish other regions also start door-to-door VCT. Okay, so if you've got a message on the back of that, please send it to me. Here's another one from Nicholas in Koforidua. Nicholas says, wow, good on AIDS there. So I guess good one for the AIDS Commission. I wish to volunteer to assist, but I'm not a health worker. Nicholas in Koforidua. We'll see how we can get your message across, Okay, so related to this particular conversation, that will be all, but we're on to another one. We've been talking World Press Freedom Day, for a while. Yeah,
and we have been. So we decided to put together and panel some great women who had been participating in the UN or UNICEF World Press Freedom Day. That was put together also in conjunction with the government of Ghana, the Ghana Journalists Association. A number of them had attended, but we have in the studio, Mama V. We have Nadine Hoffman, Deputy Director, International Women's Media Foundation. She's here. She's from the United States of America, Donald Trump's country. Good morning.
Yes, I'm sorry to say.
Oh, you shouldn't be sorry to say. We like Donald Trump in some respects. So, Nazreen Mohammed Ibrahim is with the Somalia Women's Foundation, or she's a Somalian journalist, and your organization is called the Somalia Women Journalists.
Yes.
Or, is it an association or is it
it's an organization?
It's just an organization.
Yeah.
All right. So basically, we're here to talk about shared experiences and what journalism on our continent and our parts of the subcontinent also tend to go through. And we hope that we can also situate this conversation in such a way that we'll get to know what journalists go through in other regions where they don't have the space, the freedoms, and the resources to work with, as we'll find in other parts of the world. So a great welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
Yes,
all right, Mama V.
Shall we start with what happened at the Kempinski Hotel? You've been in Ghana for how many days now?
I arrived here on Monday or Tuesday, so just for the week. Yes.
Okay. All right. So, all in all, how do you think this year's Press Freedom Day has gone? The 2-day observation, the commemoration at the Kempinski Hotel.
I think that it's a really important gathering to see journalists from around the world come together, and that feeling of solidarity. The current media climate, there are a lot of dangers that journalists are dealing with. Just this week we saw in Afghanistan, media was specifically targeted. So I think it's actually very important to remember on World Press Freedom Day all of our colleagues around the world and some of the challenges they face.
Yeah. You were put in different panels and there were different conversations. Again, we would start with you because you were on that panel yesterday. That was your panel yesterday discussing sexual harassment that comes with the job.
Yes.
Collective experience about how would you box all what was shared yesterday?
So my organization focuses specifically on supporting women journalists around the world, and we hear a lot of common themes. And I think one of them that came out yesterday, and we were hearing from journalists from Egypt, from India, from Afghanistan, from Namibia, from Ghana. So we heard quite a wide range of perspectives, and I think the main takeaway was when women are silent about their experiences, it allows harassment to continue. So we need to be loud and we need to speak. The Me Too movement in the U.S. has started to create momentum around this topic, more momentum. But certainly there are many places where it's still very hard, I think, for people to speak about their experiences.
Yeah. Nasreen, what do you want to add to this conversation? I mean, what did you pick from all the conversations around harassment yesterday?
I see well, but I missed that panel. I joined another panel when my sister panel was continued. So I see there is a lot of the harassment in the world, especially some of them they face it, Somali women journalists also, some of them they face it, even African journalists, also women journalists. They have faced a lot of the problem about harassment. I think so, not more cases about sexual harassment according harassment. Because harassment, even if someone touch your body and you don't allow, it's harassment. You are feeling disappointed. Then that man is touched again. Still you are feeling abandonment. Is the part of the harassment. Some of the people, they misunderstand what is the harassment.
True.
Yes.
True.
If you hear harassment, immediately the people understood harassment is the sexual harassment. Harassment is not sexual harassment. It's the difference. Yeah. I believe that.
Yeah.
Also, I was participating one of the panel discussion talking about safety journalists, especially African journalists. Really, me and other guests to discuss as deeply how can we get a mechanism or how can we make umbrella to protect a lot of the journalists, especially African journalists.
Sure. That's a very crucial conversation right there, safety, because we had one of our team members beaten not too long ago, not by ordinary people, by the police, and we're still pushing for them to tell us what happened, you know, get to the bottom of that investigation. So essentially we're seeking justice for our colleague who was beaten very badly. He's still not been able to come to work, and it's been over a month now. So so is the story the same in terms of, and Nazreen makes a very important comment about the fact that when we talk about harassment, it's not just about sexual harassment. It could be the fact that you're touching me and I don't like it.
Right.
Yeah, just, you know, and people don't get it. Some people simply don't get it, and that can even make it harder. So what are we taking out from, you know, from all the conversations yesterday? It was a beautiful gathering. 2 days we had conversations. And so what? That's the big question that I'm asking now. And so what? What do we do?
So what? I think I think there's a lot of work to do. I mean, obviously we know that it's a difficult time to be working in the news media, but I do think there's a lot of room from the people who came together to be more collaborative and to share experiences. And so I sat in on the panel that you presented on, Nazreen. And one of the things that was interesting was to hear best practices from different countries that were shared, because a lot of the things that are being done in one country could be applied in another country. So for instance, a colleague from Afghanistan talked about an anti-harassment policy that the Afghan Journalist Safety Committee has developed and that they're trying to roll out in newsrooms in Afghanistan. Well, if they can do it in Afghanistan, we should be able to do it in other places. Yeah. So taking the knowledge that already exists and the best practices and trying to apply them in other places.
Yeah. You know, we're discussing the Me Too movement, and I remember Roland telling me, why is it not trickling down to this part of the world? And I was, you know, I think the conclusion was the fact that we've got different cultures, and the fact that somebody can open up in the United States to share such an experience, it doesn't mean that women down here could easily also do the same. And I don't know if that is something that, from where you sit, you think about. It's not so easy for women across the world, you know, to talk about it like the Me Too movement in the U.S.
I hear that point, but I think it's hard for women everywhere to talk about those experiences. Just looking at, you know, how this investigation started with Harvey Weinstein, and then it you know, became about other industries. But getting the women to talk on the record about what happened to them who were victims of Harvey Weinstein was really hard. The journalists from the New York Times who were reporting that story, they worked for months and months and months to get anyone to go on the record because everyone was so scared. And I think what was interesting to see, at least in the U.S. example, is that once the first few people started to come forward and say, this happened to me, a whole lot of women followed behind them and said, it happened to me too. And that's the power, I think, of the movement, is that once people start to stand up, and obviously, it's cost women their jobs, it's cost women a lot, but that solidarity is the reason that more are able to come behind and speak.
Yeah.
But in order to also share in the experiences, it also means that you bring some kind of relative experience from your country.
Yeah.
What pertains in relation to what not only women go through, but journalists also go through in trying to gather news within the context of what rules and regulations exist, either to protect them or not to protect them, or work within the frameworks of what the country's laws say?
Thank you. Somalia has rule and regulation to prevent the journalists, but the problem is my country have been continuously the civil war almost 25 years. That civil war damaged a lot of the institution sectors also in the city. That's why we are feeling still we are need to make a lot of the recovery. Last 2 years before, the Somali central government approved and bring media law, not pass the member of the parliament, is still in the parliament, that media law. On the other side, we have a lot of the independent organizations and the national organization work side of the media and prevention, the journalist. For example, me, I'm one of the Somali women journalists. That organization founded 2013. Up to now, we are working how to make women journalists become a strong woman. We did a lot of the capacity building programs. After we got a lot of the support, some of the donors like IMS. IMS is the International Media Support. I think so you know that organization because it is an international organization working most of the African countries, African continent. So on other side, we got a lot of the donors more support, such as FOYO. FOYO is the media institute based in Dairumat. After that, we do a lot of the program about capacity building. For example, we did a lot of training to provide it, our organization and give most of the Somali women journalists. On the other side, we did a lot of the discussion, especially debate, also group discussion.
Okay.
We meet both sides, like decision makers for the media, like example managers, also head of the departments, and also we meet them women journalists working in different stations.
Yeah.
Both of sides, they talk about a lot of the issue. For example, last activity we did in Mogadishu talking about gender-based violence against Somali women journalists. Most of the people talk about different issue about that violence. Some of them, they talk about as deeply harassment, while others talking about as deeply sexual harassment. Some of them, they are talking about physical abuse and also mental abuse. Finally, we got the result, and some of them, they shared us their ideas about how, and we asked them, how can we solve this problem? They say, if Somali women journalists to get more capacity building and to get a knowledge, they pass it everything about the problem from the outside.
Okay.
On top of that, we did some of the state like Southwest in Somalia, Paidabo, we did like this issue. Also Kismayo in the Jubaland state, we did like this, also the Buntland. All the Somali women journalists are living there. They shared us different idea about how to prevent our themselves, is also how to become a strong woman according to man. Really, it's very, very
are journalists, by the way, are journalists able to report? How free are journalists in your country?
Really, journalists are free when we are staying in the Somalia. For example, if you are a woman journalist, you can go anywhere you want, especially the city. You can go the far away the city.
And if you talk city, you mean the capital, Mogadishu?
Yeah, the capital, Mogadishu. Capital Mogadishu is good. Sometimes it's happened some clash, like explosion, fighting, also assassination, but not more. If you can do a lot of history when you are staying in the capital city of Somalia, Mogadishu, if you are a woman journalist. The problem is woman journalists less than the man as a number.
Okay.
It's a few number for women journalists right now are working in the media house.
Compared to men?
Yeah, compared to man. For example, one station you can get 20 men, while for
women.
For women.
Okay.
Is there rather than man. The problem sometimes comes from that side. On the other side, you can see a few women are member of the decision makers.
Right.
Okay.
For example, my radio, call it Mustaqbal Radio, it's private radio. Mustaqbal Radio. Mustaqbal Radio means the future radio.
Okay.
Like when we are translate some English, it becomes a future radio.
Okay.
Me and other sister, we are part of the decision makers for the radio.
Okay.
For example, me, I am the head of production. I'm the supervisor for department of the production. That department produced a lot of the debate, a lot of the interview packages, and also some of the history about the situation and also the people. While other sister, she's the head of the finance and marketing for my radio. Really.
And you are the only two women.
So yours will be.
No, we are 4 women.
4 women.
Yeah, but of 2 of them, we are part of the decision maker. Yeah, of the radio.
Okay.
We have power. We have. We can reach the decision for the radio.
Okay, which is a good thing. Which is a good thing because, but we don't have a lot of such examples in Somalia. You would say. Can you find a lot of other media houses with management in top decision-making positions?
Yes.
Being filled by women? Or
yes. Also, Universal TV is the one of the popular TV are existing in our country, especially the capital city of the Mogadishu, even all the world. One of the women is the member of the decision maker for the radio. She is the head of the finance for TV. Okay. But also we can get another woman part of the decision makers for the different sections like TV, radio, but is there rather than the man.
So Nadine, I guess the conversation now is going to the equality side.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Washington would also be looking at something like that. I mean, what we talk about. So we have Nazreen here, and we're trying to figure out what exists in her country. Is that what you'll be looking at there, or you guys have passed all these stages? You don't have issues with equality, women in minority positions. You're okay?
No, we're not okay. That's definitely not the case. I think that the issues are certainly different, and obviously in Somalia, I think the work of journalists is much more the dangers that you've just talked about, explosions, assassinations. These are not things that journalists are facing all over the world, but certainly in terms of equality, I don't think we're there yet. Probably the only region that is getting close to there is the Nordic countries in Europe. But in the U.S., we have the same issues. We have, women in all industries, including the media, are paid less. That's well documented. Women are represented, much less in leadership and governance positions. And you're right, that is important because that's where the news agenda is set. So if mostly men are setting the news agenda, then what does that mean about what stories we don't hear? Yeah. And that's kind of what we're not, it's not just getting women in the media for the sake of having women in the media. It's about reflecting the communities that we live in. So it's not just about having equal number of men and women. It's about having, in the U.S., it's about having more reporters who come from different backgrounds. So more African-American reporters, more Latino reporters. How are we going to tell stories about immigration when we're only hearing from white people about immigration in the U.S.? This is a real problem. So yes, I think a diversity of voices is where we need to get to.
Your organization, the International Women's Media Foundation, you tend to work in many countries, and,
we do.
and you said the Great Lake regions.
Yes.
Now, we know that some of the countries within those areas of Africa, or within that part of Africa, are in the section of the most deprived. What other experiences and indicators have you seen yourself, reported yourself, but also perhaps documented, that you feel could be improved to make the states or the situation of the journalists in those countries better?
A lot of the countries where we work, and I'm thinking specifically of places like South Sudan or Central African Republic, DRC, those are difficult places to be journalists for safety reasons as well, and because of ongoing conflicts, but also because there just aren't that many resources in terms of, you know, journalists being able to get training or go to school. It's not necessarily offered for them. So I think the training needs are real. The safety training, they need to have safety training really to be able to do that job in a more, in a safer way. You can't ever be really safe working in some of those contexts. And they need more international support, I think, too, because often the danger, unfortunately, and particularly I'm thinking of like DRC or South Sudan, is coming from the government itself. Which is really...
So it means that the main structures and the government posture on that part of the African continent is a problem.
I think it's a huge problem. And particularly you see as elections have been pushed in DRC, but are supposed to happen this year, I think it will become more dangerous for journalists to cover those stories. And anytime elections are coming, that's a problem.
You have traveled to other African countries too. Do you think that when you go to see other situations in those countries, you feel
take Ghana as an example, because
further
she's in
marginalized
Ghana,
and think that, well, these people are better, way ahead of my country, and I feel that we have a longer time to catch up?
Absolutely. When you are staying, the country faced several a lot of years. And you come, the country has peace and stability and security. You feel both of them, they are two different. For example, Somalia until 2007 up to now,
that's 2007.
Yeah, now it is 2018. When we was started 2007 up to now, we are feeling to make recovery day by day, slowly by slowly, not to reach like some of the African countries, but we are feeling better before. So I feel when I come, the country has rule, regulation, stability. I feel one day become like that country. I don't feel disappointed, but I got a lot of motivation. I feel I can, if we are Somali people, really we have a lot of the intelligence mind, and we can do everything they did. Some of the people are living in different countries, also different continents. So I got new experience. For example, I came to Ghana. I saw Ghana. It's very, very beautiful building. Also, I like the way the people making cold reception. And additional information is, I was very, very, very like when I heard Ghana is the first country become in the world freedom prize, like the
independence.
Yeah, independence. So I feel freedom right now, up to now, because it is good and good information. Yeah, that's why Ghana hosted the big program about World Prize Freedom Day in 2018 this year.
And I think Ghana is even ahead of the U.S. in terms of press freedom.
With the index that was released recently, we're at 23. You are somewhere below us.
Yes.
Which is a bit surprising.
Well,
because you get to talk about.
You believe that?
you talk about
You
your
don't even know that's
president. I
what they
mean, we
invested.
see all sorts of things that you talk about, and we thought you were freer than us.
Yeah, we can say some of the things you say to your president.
maybe that's true, but our president has declared the press an enemy.
Yeah, seriously, we can say some of the things you say to the president and then still be walking around freely. I mean, not that somebody will arrest us, but we just won't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we can always be talking about the bad things. We can talk about some of the good
course.
things
Yeah.
too, and some of the good experiences from those places that are, one, deprived, that is the countries, but also the states that are doing well. What are some of the good and successful stories can we talk about?
I think that investigative journalism right now is seeing a real boost in support, and organizations like the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists with the Panama Papers, and being able to manage these massive investigations across countries where we see journalists working together to put out huge investigations. I think that's really exciting for the future of journalism, in spite of a lot of challenges, and particularly, how are we going to fund that? But I do think that's probably the most exciting thing to look at right now.
Are there any support systems? Because all the countries are not equal. So are there funds somewhere that, because your concentration is on women, that women can tap into and better themselves?
There are. Well, so for journalists who are in crisis, there's a group called Journalists in Distress Network, and that includes members like us, the IWMF. It includes CPJ, Reporters Without Borders, a lot of different international organizations who all have emergency funds, and that's to help people who need to get immediate relocation because they're in danger, or medical care, or things like that related to their reporting. We also provide a lot of grants and reporting fellowships to give opportunities for women journalists to report from around the world, particularly Africa, Latin America. We do safety training, and there are other groups that do that too. So there are certainly resources out there, not enough, but
Right.
some.
It's something to get by.
Yes.
Right.
Now, just want to ask Nazreen, in wrapping up, because we're getting close to wrap-up time, what are you taking out of this 2-day get-together for World Press Freedom Day?
I got different experience. For example, I got different experience from different people comes from different country in the world. Also, I got another good news is most of the people participant, the panelists, they suggested different solution. For example, I'm one of the panelists for Safety for Mechanism, special African journalist. Me and other panelists suggested it is important to get mechanism approach. It's important to get rules and regulation as a generally African journalist.
Okay.
Also, we need each government to take the responsibility about violence against the media, violence against the journalists. If all the African governments have took the responsibility about the journalists, every journalist living in this continent feeling proud, feeling freedom, feeling everything, and he feeling to move forward, and he breaking the scope he is or her.
That's really important because, as the African leaders, we've got the African Union, so we know that our leaders certainly meet and they talk amongst themselves. So this is something that is possible. And if we get all our leaders supporting us in our work, I guess we'll go a long way. There was Roland, anything that you want to say? Because
I think basically we love the contribution today, and we hope that we can also enrich the debates or the narrative as to what pertains in the less endowed countries and bring those experiences to the countries that are doing well, so that we get to know the states or the situations that we all find ourselves, and then conduct ourselves in that manner which also takes into cognizance what the other story is and how we can improve. Because we have great stories we always tell each day. But the thing is, sometimes you go out and people think that you, the journalist, you're more like a venom or a worm. You're almost like a leech eating under their skin. But it's just because that's what the trade is. The trade says I should ask questions and try to pry and find out why something is wrong on behalf of somebody, and that will be the general society. So,
yeah. Nazreen, just before we wrap up, can you imagine a world without journalism? How would it be like?
I think that we would have no free societies and no democracies in a world without journalists, because who would hold the people in power accountable?
yeah, it's always the people in power, right?
Yeah.
That's why they fight us all the time.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. We wish you the best. We hope that you visit our country again sometime.
Thank you.
We have.
It's a beautiful country.
Yeah, it
Thank
is. I think we don't have so many issues as journalists. We're fighting for a right to information bill. Do you have one?
We have a yes, Freedom of Information Act,
Okay.
which sometimes works.
It's not everything you can get, right?
Not everything.
You always
We're fighting for our own, and we'll see how it works
Good
when
luck.
it's finally
I
passed.
hope yours works better than
Thank
ours.
you.
well, let's see how
Thank
that
you,
goes.
ladies, for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank you.
Well, so that'll be it for the discussion. We've had in the studio Nadine Hoffman, a deputy director with the International Women's Media Foundation, and she was in the studio with Somalia, a female activist in Somalia with the Somalia women journalist Nazreen Mohammed Ibrahim. Thanks for joining
Thank
me.
you.
Thank
All
you.
right. It's
Okay.
been a great conversation.
So it's a wrap. Stay with us. We have a lot of other exciting conversations to come on the AM show.